Hi everybody, Brett from Westcon here. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how you can use the AWS Management Console to deploy an EC2 instance or a virtual instance on the Amazon platform. If you are following along with the videos, you should have seen the virtual private cloud demo already. We're going to build on top of that. As is the case with the first video, we're going to make sure that we're in the correct region. So for all of these demos, I'm using Northern California. You can see that up in the top right-hand corner. I'm on the main management console here, and I can quickly see under Compute EC2. So I'm going to go ahead and click on EC2 to go into the EC2 dashboard. And you can see I have no running hosts and a couple default things set up. So what we're going to do is we're going to deploy a very simple EC2 instance here into the VPC that we created in the previous video. But before we do that, there's a couple things we need to do. First, we have to create a key pair. The key pair is basically a private key that we could use to access our EC2 instances with administrative privileges. So we're going to need one of those prior to creating our EC2 instance. So I'm going to go ahead and click Create Key Pair. All I have to do is give it a name, so I'm going to just call it demo key. When I click create, it's going to automatically download the key for me. So remember, this gives us administrative access to the EC2 instances that we associate with this key. So it's very important, number one, that you store the key pair in a secure location, a password vault or some other secure mechanism. And you also want to make sure that you have it backed up. If you lose this key, you will lose administrative access to the EC2 instance you've created using the key pair. I would also recommend that you limit the use of the key pair. You would normally want to use the key pair to set up local users or attach, if it's a Windows instance, attach the Windows operating system to a domain and then perform authentication through an external source. But for this demo, we're just going to use a key pair. Now that we have the key pair created and downloaded, we also have to create a security group. A security group is a stateful firewall that allows us to control access to our EC2 instance. So you can see security groups right above key pair. We're going to go ahead and select that. You can see we have two default security groups created already. These are the security groups that get created when we create our virtual private clouds. So like we did in our last video, I'm just going to quickly rename these. Okay. I just want to make sure that we don't use these guys. Whoops. All right, so now that we've labeled those so they're easy to identify, we're going to go ahead and create a new security group. So the first thing is we have to create a name for this. We're just going to call it Demo Security Group. And we're just going to, in this case, just make the description the same. Obviously, if we were doing this for a customer or in our own environment, we would want something more descriptive to tell us exactly what this is for. But for this demonstration, it's quite simple. Security groups are associated with a virtual private cloud, a VPC, so we have to select the correct VPC. We have the demo VPC that we created in the last video, so we're going to associate with that. And all we're going to do in this case is create a very simple rule. So we're going to allow SSH from my IP address. We don't want to leave this open to the world. So we're going to go ahead and click Create, and we'll give it a name. So we're just going to say Demo Security Group. So now that we have our key pair and our security group created, we can go ahead and create our EC2 instance. So you can see instances here a little higher up in the menu. All we have to do is click Launch Instance. And now we have a bunch of different operating systems that we can choose from. We're just going to keep this simple and deploy an Amazon Linux image. So we're going to click Select. And then you can see here all of the different instance types and sizes that we can deploy. Again, we're going to keep this very simple, so we're just going to deploy the default T2 micro instance, which gives us one virtual CPU with 1 gig of RAM, so we're not going to change anything here. Now we can define exactly where we would like to deploy this instance. So we have to give it a bunch of information. I'm going to go ahead and change to the demo VPC, and now I have to decide which subnet within the VPC I would like to deploy this instance. I'm going to select public subnet. Normally, again, this is going to be dependent on the project that you're deploying. Best practice would be to limit the amount of public infrastructure that is exposed to the internet. So normally we might put these in a private subnet, but for today, I'm just going to do this easily to demonstrate the capabilities. So we're going to put it in a public subnet. We're also going to assign a public IP address. This is just think of this as a DHCP address. It is a publicly routed IP, but it will change if we stop and start the EC2 instance. So very simple, again, would be dependent on what you are trying to do. We're not going to use an IAM role. An IAM role would allow us to provide access to other AWS services to applications that are running on this EC2 instance. Normally I would do this when working with a customer, but for demo purposes, we're just going to leave no role. So this would mean any applications running on this instance would not have access to AWS services. The rest of the information we can leave as default. So we're going to go ahead and add storage. Storage here, we're going to dive in another video about elastic block storage, but for the purposes of this video, we're going to leave it just with our root volume 8 gigabit general purpose SSD drive, and we'll leave everything as is. Tagging is a way to add what I would consider to be metadata to our instances. So best practice would be to tag all taggable resources. So the first thing is we're going to give it a name. So we're just going to say EC2 demo instance. And quite often tagging might be used as a way to help you understand billing information. So we're going to go ahead and for demonstration, we're just going to say department code, and let's just say marketing. So later on, we could use this tagging information to dissect a bill to show the cost for the marketing department, or filter different queries or different commands and look for, in this case, instances, EC2 instances that are assigned to the marketing department. And we have to associate a security group. So we're going to go ahead and select the existing security group option and associate it with the security group that we just created. Now we get a review screen where we can verify everything that we've set up. I'm happy with this, so we're going to click launch. And finally, we just have to decide or let the platform know which EC2 key pair we want to associate with this instance. We're just going to use the demo key here. My recommendation is to create multiple keys, maybe across application tiers, departments. It's going to depend again on exactly how your customer wants to approach this. Normally I'd have multiple key pairs in my environment. I'm going to select the demo key and say launch instance. So if we click view instances, it'll take us back to our console, and you can see now that our EC2 instance is coming to life. So we'll just give it a couple minutes here to start up, and then we can verify that using our access key, we can access the machine. All right, so our EC2 instance is coming to life. The status check you can see is still initializing, but we've been assigned a public IP address, and everything should be up and running enough for us to actually connect to this instance. So let's give it a try. Okay, so I've got everything set up. I've downloaded the key so I can use that. So I'm going to go ahead and try to connect. You can see I've got everything set up here. So we're using our private access key that we were provided or that we created before creating the instance. Since this is an Amazon Linux AMI, we're going to use the EC2-user as the credentials to log in, and then the IP address of this instance. So everything works out the first time we've connected to the machine. So you can see here it's just asking us to verify the authenticity of the machine. So we're going to say yes. And there you have it. We are now on our EC2 instance. You can see here that even though we've just started this machine up, it does have some patches that are required. So we're going to go ahead and run the update command and get all those updates installed on the machine. So there you go. In this short demo, we created an EC2 key pair. We created a security group. We went through the steps required to deploy an EC2 instance via the management console, and then we verified connectivity, in this case using SSH to access the machine. If you were using a Windows AMI, Amazon Machine Image, then you would obviously test this with RDP, but we have a fully functioning EC2 instance. Thanks very much for watching.